Andoni Iraola is officially Liverpool's new manager, and his first major decision is already sending shockwaves through English football. Just days ago, Mohamed Salah had millions of Liverpool fans convinced that everything was about to be undone, that the greatest departure in recent Anfield history was about to be reversed, that the most dramatic falling out between a player and the manager would somehow have a happy ending. But now, following Iraola's appointment and his ruthless reshaping of the squad, everything has changed and Salah's name is no longer welcome in the building. A legend, rejected by his own club for the second time. Stick around to find out exactly why Iraola has slammed the door on a Salah return, who he's targeting to replace one of the greatest players in Premier League history, and where on earth Mohamed Salah goes from here. To understand where we are right now, you have to go back to the moment the cracks between Mohamed Salah and Arne Slot became impossible to paper over. It wasn't a single incident. It never is with these things. It was a slow erosion, a breakdown in trust, in communication, in vision. Slot arrived at Liverpool with enormous expectations following the Klopp era and made it immediately clear that he was not going to be held hostage by any one player's star power. Not even Salah's. Publicly, it was professional. Privately, according to multiple reports, the relationship was ice cold. Salah, a man who had given Liverpool everything, the goals, the trophies, the moments that will live forever, found himself in the uncomfortable position of being managed by someone who didn't see him as untouchable. Slot wanted a system. Salah wanted status. And those two things simply could not coexist. Let that sink in. The man who scored over 200 goals for this football club, the man who won them the Premier League, the Champions League, and carried them on his back for nearly a decade, was essentially told his time was up. Liverpool chose Slot over Salah, and when Salah confirmed he would be leaving at the end of his contract, it felt like the end of an era, a painful, unnecessary, completely avoidable end. But then came the twist no one saw coming. Within weeks of Salah officially confirming his departure, Liverpool sacked Arne Slot. Let that sentence breathe for a second. The manager Liverpool chose over Mohamed Salah, the man at the center of the most divisive player exit in recent memory, was gone. Reports indicated the board had lost faith in Slot's ability to take the club forward after a deeply disappointing run of form that left Liverpool falling behind in the title race and performing well below expectations in Europe. The dressing room atmosphere, by all accounts, had become toxic. Results were poor, and the decision was made swiftly, the way Liverpool tend to make these decisions when they've seen enough. Immediately, the narrative shifted. Fans and pundits across social media began asking the question, could Liverpool bring Salah back? Could they undo what had happened? It seemed absurd, but football has a way of making the absurd feel reasonable. The man whose departure was linked directly to Slot was now free to reconsider, in theory, with Slot gone. Speculation ran wild for weeks. Reports claimed Salah's camp had been contacted. Sources close to the player suggested he was open to conversations. It had the makings of one of the greatest comeback stories in football. Then Andoni Iraola walked through the door, and everything changed again. Andoni Iraola was appointed as Liverpool's new manager after an impressive tenure that demonstrated his ability to build cohesive, tactically disciplined sides that punch well above their weight. The Spaniard is meticulous, forward-thinking, and very clear in his football philosophy. He doesn't do sentiment. He doesn't do nostalgia. He builds squads around players who fit his system, and he is not interested in inheriting the emotional baggage of what came before. And when the question of Mohamed Salah came up, because of course it came up, Iraola was direct. According to sources close to the club, Iraola made it clear in early conversations with Liverpool's sporting directors that Salah did not fit his plans. Not because of any personal animosity, but because his vision for this Liverpool side looks forward, not backward. He reportedly used the phrase, "everything happens for a reason," when discussing the Salah situation internally, acknowledging the history, the greatness, but drawing a clean line under it. This is a new era at Liverpool, and Iraola is determined to define it on his own terms. The reaction was predictably divided. A section of the Liverpool fan base was devastated. This felt like the final, definitive closing of a chapter they'd hoped might still have one more page. Others understood it. You can't rebuild around a player whose relationship with the club had become so complicated, so emotionally charged, that his very presence would carry the weight of everything that had gone wrong. Iraola doesn't want the distraction. He doesn't want the headlines. He wants to build something clean and new. And that means someone else has to fill the void. Here is where it gets genuinely exciting, because if Liverpool are closing the door on Salah, they are reportedly opening very serious conversations about some of the most electrifying attacking talents in Europe. 3 names have emerged with real credibility, and every single one of them tells you exactly what kind of Liverpool Iraola is trying to build. The first name generating serious buzz is a winger from RB Leipzig, a player who has been turning heads across Europe all season. Direct, explosive, and perfectly suited to the kind of high-pressing, relentless system Iraola wants to implement at Anfield. Liverpool's scouting network has been all over Leipzig's wide options, and it is easy to see why. That club's model produces exactly the type of profile Iraola is hunting for. Hungry, dynamic, and completely unintimidated by the biggest stages. Then there is Bradley Barcola. The PSG winger has had a breakout season that has turned heads across the continent. Pace, directness, an eye for goal that has surprised even the most optimistic observers at the Parc des Princes. The question with Barcola is price. PSG do not sell cheaply, and Liverpool would need to make a significant financial commitment. But reportedly, Iraola sees in Barcola the kind of dynamic, wide presence that could transform this Liverpool attack overnight. And then there is the most intriguing name of all, Kenan Yildiz. The Juventus forward has become one of the most talked about young attackers in world football. Still only in the early stages of what many believe will be a remarkable career. Yildiz carries the kind of star quality that sells shirts and wins matches. Juventus would not let him go easily, but Liverpool's pull remains significant. And if Iraola has genuinely identified him as a target, this is a conversation worth watching extremely closely. Step back and look at what these 3 targets have in common: youth, directness, and the ability to thrive under intense pressing systems. Iraola is not looking for a Salah replacement in the sentimental sense. He is looking for the future of this attack. That distinction matters enormously. And now we arrive at the other half of this story, because while Liverpool are focused on the future, Mohamed Salah has a decision of his own to make, and it is one of the most significant of his entire career. At this stage, it is 100% certain he will not be returning to Liverpool. That door, which briefly appeared to swing open, has been firmly shut. So where does one of the greatest footballers of his generation go next? The Saudi Arabia option looms large, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. The money on offer from the Saudi Pro League is genuinely staggering. We are talking about figures that would make Salah one of the highest paid athletes on the planet. He wouldn't be the first European star to make that move, and given his age and the stage of his career, the financial security it would provide for the rest of his life is not something you dismiss lightly. But here's the thing about Salah, he genuinely believes he can still perform at the highest level. This is not a player coasting. His numbers over the last few seasons have remained elite by any measure. He is not ready to be put out to pasture in a league that, while growing, does not yet carry the prestige of Europe's elite competitions. Which brings us to the European options, and they are credible. There are clubs in Spain, in France, potentially in Italy, who would move heaven and earth to bring Mohamed Salah through their doors. A player of his profile, available, fits almost every top club's ambitions. The question is whether any of those clubs can match even a fraction of what Saudi Arabia would offer financially, and whether Salah's competitive fire, his desire to add more trophies, more moments to his legacy, can outweigh the undeniable appeal of a guaranteed financial windfall. According to sources close to his camp, Salah has not made a final decision. He wants to assess his options carefully. He is in no rush, and given what happened with Liverpool, the way the slot situation played out, the way his exit became tabloid fodder, the emotional toll of leaving a club he gave his best years to, he is determined to make the right move for himself and his family, not the emotionally reactive one. Could he end up at a club like Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan, even a return to Roma where his career once briefly touched down? All of these conversations exist at some level. None of them are closed. Andoni Iraola has drawn a line in the sand. He has looked at the emotion, the speculation, the fan pressure, and the narrative pull of a Salah return, and he has said no. Clearly, directly, without apology. That tells you everything you need to know about what kind of manager he intends to be. He is not here to manage Liverpool's past. He is here to build Liverpool's future. And whether that future is defined by Barcola's pace, Yildiz's brilliance, or a Leipzig attacker finding his feet on Merseyside, it will be Iraola's Liverpool. Built his way, on his terms. Mohamed Salah deserves a send-off that matches his legacy at this club. Whether he finds it in Saudi Arabia's desert heat, or under the floodlights of European football's grandest stages, that remains the question. Football will be watching closely. The era is over. The next one is beginning. And for the first time in years, the question is no longer what Mohamed Salah means to Liverpool. It is what Liverpool means without him, and whether Iraola's vision is bold enough to fill the space left behind. That is the story no one fully saw coming, and it is still very much being written.